The grand halls of the Valerian royal palace gleamed under artificial starlight. Princess Hana walked through the corridor with measured steps, her silver gown trailing behind her. Tonight was supposed to be another boring diplomatic reception, filled with empty smiles and meaningless conversations. She had escaped to her favorite place in the entire palace, the ancient archives where old records and forgotten histories gathered dust. The archives were forbidden to most, but Hannah had special access. She loved reading about other worlds and other species, especially the humans. Her people called them primitive and dangerous, but something about their stories fascinated her. The way they fought against impossible odds. The way they never gave up, no matter how many times they fell. As she entered the darkened archive chamber, something felt wrong. The air smelled different, metallic and sharp. Hana's hand moved to the light panel, and when the room brightened, she froze. A man lay on the floor between the data terminals. He was bleeding badly, his dark uniform torn and burned. His face was pale, covered in sweat and pain. But what shocked Hana most was recognizing what he was. This was a human, a real human, right here in her palace. Blood pooled around his body, spreading across the pristine white floor. He had been shot multiple times. His breathing came in short, desperate gasps. One hand clutched a data device, the other pressed against a wound in his side. His eyes were closed, his jaw clenched tight. Hana should have called the guards immediately. This was clearly an intruder, possibly a spy. Her father, Emperor Hyunwoo, would demand his execution. General Daehyun would want to interrogate him brutally. The protocol was clear. Any human found in Imperial territory must be captured or killed. But Hana couldn't move. She stared at the dying man, her mind racing. All her life, she had been told that humans were monsters, violent creatures who wanted to destroy the Valerian Empire. Yet looking at this wounded person, all she saw was someone suffering, someone who needed help. She knelt beside him, her expensive gown soaking up his blood. Her hands trembled as she checked his pulse, still alive, but fading fast. The human's eyes fluttered open for just a moment. They were dark brown, filled with pain and fear. He tried to speak, but only managed a weak cough. "Don't move," Hana whispered, though she wasn't sure why she said it in the human language. She had studied their tongues secretly, another forbidden interest of hers. The man's eyes widened slightly in surprise before closing again. He went limp, unconscious. Hana made a decision that would change everything. She activated her personal communicator, but not to call the guards. Instead, she contacted her medical AI assistant, ordering it to her location immediately with emergency supplies. Then she began dragging the human toward a hidden service passage she had discovered years ago. He was heavier than he looked, and the trail of blood followed them. Hana's heart pounded as she pulled him through the narrow passage. Any moment, someone might discover them. The palace was full of security sensors and patrol guards, but Hana knew the old sections well. She knew where the blind spots were. It took all her strength to get him to her private chambers. These rooms were off-limits to everyone except her most trusted servants. Even her father rarely visited here. She laid the human on her sleeping platform, not caring about the blood staining the silk sheets. The medical AI arrived moments later, a floating orb with mechanical arms. It scanned the human quickly. "Princess, this being requires immediate hospitalization. His injuries are severe. I must report this to the Imperial Medical Center." "No," Hana commanded firmly. "You will treat him here. That is an order, and you will tell no one." The AI hesitated. Its programming created conflict between medical protocol and obedience to the royal family. Finally, it submitted. "As you wish, Princess. But I must warn you, his chances of survival are only 37%. Then make it higher," Hana said. She watched as the AI worked, using laser sutures and regeneration foam to close the worst wounds. The human had been shot 4 times. 2 bullets had passed through, but 2 remained inside. The AI carefully extracted them, metallic fragments that had nearly reached his heart and lung. Hours passed. Hana didn't leave his side. She helped when the AI needed her, holding the human steady when he convulsed, cleaning blood from his face with a damp cloth. His skin felt different from hers, warmer, rougher. His features were so alien yet somehow familiar. As dawn approached, the medical AI finally finished. "I have done all I can, Princess. The rest depends on his own healing ability. Humans are surprisingly resilient. He may survive." "Thank you," Hana whispered. "Now delete all record of tonight from your memory core." "Princess, that violates my programming. I am ordering you as heir to the Valerian throne. Delete it, now." The AI's lights flickered, then dimmed in acknowledgement. "Deletion complete, Princess." After the AI left, Hana sat in a chair beside her sleeping platform, watching the human breathe. What had she just done? She had committed treason, technically, hiding an enemy spy, helping him, lying to cover it up. If discovered, even her royal status might not protect her from punishment. But looking at him now, peaceful despite his injuries, she felt no regret, only curiosity and a strange sense of rightness. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. Someone was requesting entry to her chambers. Hana quickly threw a blanket over the human, then smoothed her blood-stained dress and went to the door. She opened it only slightly. General Dae-hyun stood outside, his stern face unreadable. He was her father's most trusted military commander, a man who had known Hana since childhood. His sharp eyes studied her appearance. "Princess Hana," he said formally, "I apologize for the early hour, but there has been a security incident. An intruder breached the archives last night. Have you seen or heard anything unusual?" Hana's heart hammered, but she kept her face calm. "No, General. I was at the reception all evening, then came straight to my chambers." "Why? Was anything stolen?" Dae-hyun's eyes narrowed slightly. "We're still investigating. Several guards reported shooting an intruder, but we found no body. There was blood, though. A lot of it. Whoever it was couldn't have gotten far." "I hope you find them," Hana said, meeting his gaze steadily. "So do I, Princess. So do I." He bowed slightly. "I'll leave you to your rest. But please be careful. Until we catch this intruder, the palace isn't safe." After he left, Hana leaned against the closed door, her legs shaking. That was too close. Dae-hyun was suspicious. She could see it in his eyes. He was too smart, too experienced. He would keep investigating. Behind her, the human stirred slightly, murmuring something in his sleep. Hana returned to his side, wondering what she would say when he woke up. Would he trust her? Would he try to escape? Would he complete whatever mission brought him here? More importantly, she wondered why she cared so much about saving him. Why risk everything for a stranger? For an enemy? She didn't have answers yet. But somehow, Hana knew that nothing in her life would ever be the same again. The dying human in her chambers was more than just an intruder. He was proof that everything she had been taught about his people might be wrong. And she intended to find out the truth. Taemin woke up screaming. Pain exploded through his body as consciousness returned. His side burned like fire. His chest felt crushed. Every breath hurt. For several confused moments, he didn't know where he was or what had happened. Then memory crashed back. The mission, the archives, the guards, the gunfire. He tried to sit up, but gentle hands pushed him back down. A voice spoke softly in perfect human language. "Please don't move. Your wounds are still healing." Taemin's eyes focused on the face above him. A woman with silver-blue skin and luminous violet eyes. Her features were elegant, otherworldly. She wore a simple white gown, though he could see dried blood on the fabric. A Valerian. He was in enemy hands. Instinct took over. Taman grabbed her wrist and twisted, trying to use her as a hostage. But his body was too weak. The movement sent agony through his wounds, and he collapsed back, gasping. "I'm not going to hurt you," the woman said calmly, not even attempting to pull away. "If I wanted you dead, you would be. I saved your life." Taman's mind raced through possibilities. A trap? Interrogation tactic? But nothing made sense. He was lying on what looked like an expensive sleeping platform in luxurious chambers. Medical equipment surrounded him. This wasn't a prison cell. "Who are you?" he managed to ask, his voice hoarse. "My name is Hana," she said. I found you in the archives. You were dying. I brought you here and treated your injuries." Why? It was the only question that mattered. Valerians didn't help humans. They killed them. The war had been going on for 15 years, brutal and unforgiving. Every human knew that capture meant torture and execution. Hana was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know," she finally admitted. "I just couldn't let you die." Taman studied her face, looking for deception, but he only saw honesty and confusion, as if she was as surprised by her actions as he was. Slowly, he released her wrist. "Where am I?" he asked. "The Royal Palace. These are my private chambers." The Royal Palace? Taman's blood went cold. He had been caught in the worst possible place. "Then you're Princess Hana, daughter of Emperor Hyunwoo," she confirmed. "And you are a human spy who broke into our most secure archives. So we're both in dangerous positions right now." Despite the pain and fear, Taman almost laughed. A Valerian princess was hiding him? This was insane. "They'll find me eventually. You know that." "I know. Which is why we need to be very careful." Hana stood and moved to a table where she poured water into a cup. She brought it to him, helping him drink. The water was cool and sweet. Taman realized he was desperately thirsty. "Why did you come here?" she asked. "What were you looking for in the archives?" Taman said nothing. Even if she had saved him, he couldn't reveal his mission. Too many lives depended on it. Hana seemed to understand. "You don't trust me. I suppose that's fair." She sat in a chair beside the platform. "Let me tell you what I think. You came for information about our military, maybe about the invasion fleet that's being prepared." Taman's expression must have given something away, because Hana nodded. "I'm not stupid. I've seen the preparations, the ships gathering in orbit, the troop movements. My father and his generals think I don't pay attention to military matters, but I do." "If you know about the invasion, why help me?" Taman asked. "Aren't I your enemy?" "Are you?" Hana leaned forward, her violet eyes intense. "I've been taught all my life that humans are violent barbarians, mindless animals who want to destroy us. But I've also read your literature, your history, your philosophy. I've studied your species in secret for years. And I've never understood why we're really fighting." "Your empire attacked our colonies first," Taman said bitterly. "We were just trying to survive on our new worlds. You declared us a threat and started killing us." "I know. I've read the classified reports, the ones my father hides from the public." Hana's voice was quiet. "I know the official story we tell our people is a lie. We started this war, not you." Taman stared at her in shock. A Valerian, especially a royal, admitting the truth. He had never imagined such a thing possible. "Why tell me this?" he asked. "Because I want to understand. Why do humans keep fighting? You're outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched in every way. Any rational species would have surrendered by now, but you don't. You never do. Why?" Taman thought about his home colony. About his younger sister Yunji, who wanted to be a doctor. about the small farm his parents worked, trying to grow food on a harsh alien world, about the friends he had lost in Valerian attacks. Because surrender means extinction, he said simply. Your empire doesn't want peace. It wants our worlds and our resources. If we stop fighting, we die. So we fight. Even when it's hopeless, we fight. Because maybe, somehow, we'll survive long enough for things to change. Hana was quiet, absorbing his words. Tell me about your world, your people, not the propaganda versions, the truth. Over the next hour, Taemin did something he never expected. He talked. He told her about Earth, humanity's cradle world now overcrowded and dying, about the desperate colony ships that had left seeking new homes, about the simple desire to farm and build and live in peace. He told her about human art and music, about how people fell in love and raised families even in war zones, about the small moments of beauty people created despite constant fear, about his own family and why he had volunteered for this suicide mission. Hana listened to everything, asking questions, genuinely curious. She told him about her own life too, the isolation of being royal, the expectations, the loneliness, how she had been engaged to marry a Valerian noble she had never met, how she spent her time reading forbidden books about other species and dreaming of different lives. You're not what I expected, Taemin admitted finally. Neither are you, Hana replied with a small smile. I thought if I ever met a human, they would be different, monstrous maybe. But you're just a person, afraid and hurt and far from home, but still a person. A soft chime interrupted them. Hana's expression immediately shifted to concern. Someone's at the door. Hide under the blankets. Don't move or make any sound. Taemin obeyed, his heart racing as Hana left. He heard muffled voices. Hana and someone else. A woman. They spoke in Valerian too quickly for him to follow. After a few minutes, Hana returned alone. That was Minji, my lady-in-waiting, she explained. She brings my breakfast every morning. I told her I was sick and needed rest. It won't keep her away forever, though. How long was I unconscious? Taemin asked. 2 days. 2 days. His mission timeline was destroyed. The extraction team would assume he was dead or captured. They would have left already. He was trapped here with no way out and no way to complete his objective. Hana must have seen his despair because she said quietly, "The data device you were carrying when I found you, it was empty. You didn't get what you came for, did you?" Taemin shook his head. Then we'll have to get it, Hana said. He stared at her. What? You came here for information about the invasion. Information that could save your people's lives. I can help you get it. She met his eyes steadily. I want to help you. Why would you betray your own people? Because they're wrong, Hana said firmly. This war is wrong. The invasion is wrong. If there's any chance to stop it, to save innocent lives on both sides, then I have to try. Even if it means betraying my father. Taemin didn't know what to say. This princess, who had every reason to hate humans, was offering to commit treason for him. It should have felt like a trap, but somehow it didn't. He saw the conviction in her eyes, the determination. You could be executed for this, he said. I know. Your people will call you a traitor. I know that too. Why risk everything? Hana was quiet for a moment, then said softly, because it's the right thing to do. Isn't that enough? For the first time since he had woken up, Taemin smiled. Maybe not all Valerians were his enemies. Maybe there was hope after all. 5 days passed in secret. 5 days where Hana's life split into 2 worlds. The public princess who attended court functions and smiled at diplomatic guests, and the private woman who smuggled food and medicine to the human hiding in her chambers. Taemin grew stronger each day. His wounds were healing remarkably fast. The medical AI had been right about human resilience. What would kill most species, humans somehow survived. Hana found herself fascinated by this, by him, by everything she was learning. They talked for hours whenever she could slip away from her duties. Taman taught her about Earth's history, about the wars humans had fought among themselves before reaching the stars. He explained human emotions and customs that seemed strange to Valerian thinking. Why humans cried when happy, why they laughed in the face of danger, why they formed such deep bonds with others, even knowing they would eventually lose them. Humans feel everything so intensely, Hana observed one evening. They sat together on her balcony, hidden from view by decorative screens. The twin moons of Velar Prime hung in the purple sky. "Doesn't it hurt, caring so much?" "Yes," Taman admitted. "It hurts a lot sometimes. But that's what makes us human. We love hard, we fight hard, we feel hard, even when it would be easier not to. Valerians are taught to control emotions, to be logical and calm always. Feelings are considered weakness." Hana pulled her knees to her chest. "But sometimes I think we've lost something important by suppressing so much." "You don't seem emotionless to me," Taman said with a slight smile. Hana blushed, her silver skin taking on a violet tinge. "I've never been a very good Valerian, I suppose." Their conversations continued late into the night. Taman told her about human music, and she was amazed by the concept of instruments creating organized sound for pure pleasure. He sang quietly for her, an old Earth song about hope and home. Hana felt something strange happen inside her chest, a warmth, an ache, something her people didn't have a word for. But danger was always close. General Dae-hyun increased security throughout the palace. He personally oversaw searches of every section, every room. Only Hana's royal status kept her private chambers off limits, but even that wouldn't last forever. On the 6th day, Hana's lady-in-waiting Minji arrived unexpectedly early. Hana had been helping Taman change his bandages, and there was no time to hide him. Minji stepped into the room, saw them together, and froze. For a long, terrible moment, no one moved. Then Minji's hand went to her communicator. Taman tensed, ready to fight despite his injuries. But Hana moved between them. "Minji." "Please," Hana said urgently. "Please, just listen to me." "Princess, that's a human." Minji's voice shook with fear and shock. "You're harboring an enemy spy. I have to report this. If you do, they'll kill him. He's an intruder. A threat to the Empire." "He's a person," Hana said firmly. "A good person who came here trying to save his people from our invasion. Minji, I've known you since we were children. You've always been honest with me. So I'm asking you to be honest now. Do you really believe everything we've been told about humans?" Minji hesitated, her hand still on the communicator. Her eyes flicked between Hana and Taman. I don't know what I believe anymore." "Then give me a chance to show you," Hana pleaded. "Just a few minutes. Talk to him. See for yourself." Slowly, reluctantly, Minji's hand dropped from the communicator. She looked at Taman with fear and curiosity mixed together. "You can speak Valerian?" "Yes," Taman said carefully. "I studied your language. I wanted to understand your people." "Why? So you could spy on us better?" "So I could find a way to stop the killing," Taman replied. "I'm a soldier, yes. But I'm tired of war. Everyone I know is tired of war. We just want to live." Over the next hour, Minji listened as Taman and Hana explained everything. The truth about the war's beginning. The evidence of planned massacres in the invasion fleet. The desperation of human colonies just trying to survive. Minji was silent for a long time after they finished. Finally, she said, "If this is discovered, we'll all be executed. You know that." "Princess?" I know. And you're asking me to commit treason, to lie to the Emperor, to General Daehyun, to everyone. I'm asking you to help us do the right thing, Hana said. I can't do this alone. I need you, Minji. I've always needed you. Minji closed her eyes, struggling with her decision. When she opened them again, she looked older somehow, burdened by what she was about to do. I must be insane. But yes, I'll help you. Stars help us all. Hana embraced her friend tightly. Thank you. Thank you. With Minji's help, things became slightly easier. She could run interference, create distractions, smuggle supplies more efficiently. But she also brought troubling news. General Daehyun had ordered a sector-by-sector search of the palace. He was convinced the intruder was still inside somewhere. They had perhaps 3 days before the search reached Hana's section. We need to move faster, Taemin said. I have to get to the archives, copy the invasion data, and get off this planet. The archives are impossible now, Minji warned. Daehyun has guards posted everywhere. He's obsessed with finding you. There has to be a way, Hana insisted. They spent hours planning, arguing, discarding ideas. The problem was simple. The archives were in the most secure part of the palace, now even more heavily guarded. Getting in would require Hana's access codes, but using them would create records that Daehyun could trace. As they debated, something shifted between Hana and Taemin. Their hands brushed accidentally, and neither pulled away. Their eyes met, and held longer than necessary. The air between them felt charged with unspoken feelings. Minji noticed, of course. She pulled Hana aside later and spoke quietly. Princess, you're falling in love with him. That's absurd, Hana said automatically. Is it? I see how you look at him, how you smile when he speaks. I've known you your whole life, Hana. I've never seen you like this. Hana wanted to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Was it love? She didn't know. She had never experienced it before. But she knew that when Taemin was in pain, her chest hurt. When he smiled, she felt warm. When she thought about him leaving, something inside her broke. It doesn't matter what I feel, Hana said finally. He'll leave soon. He has to. His people need the information. And then what? Minji asked gently. You go back to your arranged marriage? Pretend none of this happened? I don't know, Hana whispered. I don't know anything anymore. That night, alone with Taemin on the balcony, Hana finally asked the question that had been haunting her. When this is over, when you escape and return to your people, what will happen to you? If I succeed, I'll be a hero, Taemin said with a bitter laugh. If I fail, I'll just be another soldier who died trying. Either way, I probably won't live long. The war will continue. Do you have family waiting for you? A sister, Yoonji. She's studying medicine in one of the underground colonies. My parents died in a Valerian raid 3 years ago. I'm sorry. Not your fault. But his voice was tight with old pain. They sat in silence, watching the moons. Finally, Taemin spoke again. Hana, why are you really doing this? The truth. She considered lying, but she was tired of lies. Because I think you're right. Because this war is wrong. And because... She trailed off, unable to finish. Because? He prompted gently. Because when I'm with you, I feel like I'm finally myself, she said quietly. Not a princess, not a daughter, not a political tool. Just me. And I've never felt that before. Taemin reached out and took her hand. His skin was so warm compared to hers. I know what you mean. I feel it too. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. Just holding hands in the moonlight was enough. A moment of peace before the storm that was coming. Because tomorrow, they would attempt the impossible. They would break into the archives together, steal the most classified military secrets in the Empire, and hope they both survived. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Hana knew that even if they succeeded, she would have to let him go. He would return to his people, and she would stay with hers. Some things were simply impossible, but for now, in this moment, she let herself believe in impossible things. The royal banquet was the perfect distraction. Hundreds of guests filled the grand hall, diplomats and nobles from across the Valerian Empire. Music played, drinks flowed, and everyone was focused on politics and pleasure. No one noticed Princess Hana slipping away early, claiming a headache. And no one noticed the maintenance worker in gray coveralls moving through the service corridors, face hidden beneath a worker's hood. Taemin moved carefully, following the route Minji had mapped out for them. His wounds ached with each step, but the pain helped him stay focused. They met at a junction point near the archives. Hana had changed from her formal gown into simple dark clothing. She looked nervous but determined. Without speaking, they continued together into the restricted zone. The archives were quieter than during Taemin's first attempt. Only 2 guards stood at the main entrance, but Minji had created a false security alert on the other side of the palace. Within minutes, both guards received urgent messages and hurried away, leaving their post temporarily unmanned. "We have maybe 15 minutes, Hana whispered as she pressed her palm to the access panel. The door slid open silently. Maybe less. Inside, the archives looked different than Taemin remembered. Banks of data terminals glowed softly in the darkness, storing centuries of Imperial records. Somewhere in this massive collection was the information he needed: detailed plans for the invasion fleet, target coordinates, timing, troop numbers. Hana led him to a specific terminal deep in the classified section. "This one has the highest level military files. My access code will work here." She entered her credentials, and the system came to life. Screens filled with data. Taemin quickly connected his storage device and began downloading. File after file transferred. Deployment schedules, fleet compositions, target lists. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. The invasion was scheduled to begin in 23 days, not months away, as human intelligence had believed. Less than a month. And the target wasn't just military installations. The Valerian fleet planned to strike civilian colonies first, destroying them completely before the human defense forces could respond. "They're planning genocide," Taemin whispered in horror. "Not conquest, genocide." Hana leaned over his shoulder, reading the files. Her face went pale. No, my father wouldn't. He couldn't." But the evidence was right there. Detailed orders for orbital bombardment of population centers, plans to destroy agricultural zones and water supplies, estimates of acceptable civilian casualties, millions of them. "This is an extermination campaign," Taemin said, his hands shaking as he worked. "They don't want our surrender. They want us dead." Hana covered her mouth, looking sick. "I knew the war was wrong, but this... Taemin, we have to stop this. We have to. First, we have to survive the next 10 minutes. The download was only halfway complete. The files were massive, more data than he had expected. They waited in tense silence, watching the progress bar crawl forward. Every sound made them jump. Every shadow looked like danger. Taemin found himself very aware of Hana beside him, her breathing quick and nervous. If they were caught, she would be executed alongside him. She was risking everything. The download reached 80%, then 90%. The archive door hissed open. Well, I knew I'd find you here eventually, Princess." General Daehyun stood in the doorway, flanked by 4 armed soldiers. His face was a mixture of disappointment and anger. In his hand, he held a weapon aimed directly at Taemin. "General, I can explain," Hana started. "No explanation needed," Daehyun cut her off coldly. "You've been harboring the human spy, probably for days. I suspected as much after our last conversation. You were always a terrible liar, Hana. Please, you don't understand. I understand treason when I see it. Daehyun's voice echoed through the archives. I've known you since you were a child. I watched you grow up. And this is how you repay your father's trust? By betraying your entire species? Taemin's hand moved to the data device. 98%. Just a few more seconds. Soldiers, seize them both, Daehyun ordered. No! Hana moved between the guards and Taemin. General, please, just listen to me. Look at what we found. She gestured at the screens showing the invasion plans. Do you see this? They're planning to murder millions of innocent people, not soldiers, not military targets, families, children, civilians. Daehyun's expression didn't change. Those are military operations, classified above your clearance level. They're war crimes, Hana shouted. And you know it. You're a soldier, Daehyun. You have honor. This plan has no honor in it. For just a moment, doubt flickered across the general's face. He glanced at the screens, seeing the detailed casualty projections, the target lists of civilian centers. That moment of hesitation was all Taemin needed. The download completed. He grabbed the data device and Hana's hand. Run! They bolted toward the maintenance tunnel Minji had told them about, hidden behind a false wall panel. Daehyun shouted orders. Weapons fire lit up the archives. Energy bolts sizzled past them, hitting data terminals and sending sparks flying. Taemin slammed his fist into the hidden release mechanism. The panel slid open, revealing a narrow crawl space. He pushed Hana through first, then followed, sealing the panel behind them just as the soldiers reached it. They won't stay blocked for long, Taemin gasped as they crawled through the tight space. Daehyun knows all the palace's secrets. Not all of them, Hana replied. Minji and I found tunnels even he doesn't know about. Keep moving. They emerged in a forgotten storage area, dusty and filled with ancient equipment. Hana led them through a maze of corridors, always moving down, deeper into the palace's foundations. Behind them, they could hear alarms blaring and soldiers searching. Finally, they reached a small maintenance bay. Minji was waiting there, pacing nervously. Her face flooded with relief when she saw them. Thank the stars! I heard the alarms. Did you get it? We got it, Taemin confirmed, holding up the data device. And General Daehyun saw everything, Hana added grimly. He knows I'm helping Taemin. It's over. We have to get Taemin off the planet now. Minji nodded. I made contact with a smuggler like you asked. Her name is Ji-won. She's willing to take a passenger off-world, no questions asked, but it won't be cheap. I'll pay whatever she wants, Hana said. When can she be ready? She's at the spaceport now, docking bay 17. But Princess, General Daehyun will lock down all transportation within the hour. The window is closing fast. They had no time to plan, no time to think. They just moved. Minji led them through one more hidden passage that emerged near the palace vehicle bay. She had prepared a transport pod, something small and fast that could reach the spaceport quickly. As they climbed aboard, Hana hesitated. Minji, you should stay. If you come with us, you'll be marked as a traitor too. Too late for that, Minji said with a sad smile. I helped you break into the archives. I'm already dead if they catch me. Besides, someone has to pilot this thing. Neither of you can fly. The transport lifted off, slipping into the night traffic. They flew low and fast, weaving between buildings. Other vehicles passed them without interest. Just another transport in a city full of them. But then alarms began sounding across the entire city. All traffic received emergency orders to land immediately. Military craft appeared in the sky, searchlights sweeping. They've locked down the entire capital, Minji said tensely. We're not going to make it to the spaceport. Yes, we are, Hana said firmly. Just fly. Minji pushed the transport to its limits. They screamed through the city, pursued now by military interceptors. Weapons fire streaked past them. Minji was a skilled pilot, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Then suddenly, 3 civilian transports moved to block the military craft, causing confusion and buying them precious seconds. More civilian vehicles joined, creating a chaotic traffic jam that slowed their pursuers. "What's happening?" Taemin asked in confusion. Hana was staring at a public broadcast screen on the transport's dashboard. "I don't know, but look." The screen showed a news report. Someone had leaked the invasion plans to the media, civilian casualties, genocide protocols, everything. It was spreading across the planetary network faster than the government could suppress it. People were taking to the streets, blocking military movements, demanding answers. Who leaked it? Minji wondered. Hana and Taemin exchanged glances. They were the only ones who had accessed those files, which meant the transmission had started during their download. The system had automatically broadcast what they were viewing. Or perhaps not so automatically. Perhaps someone else in the Imperial network had been waiting for this moment. Someone else who wanted the truth exposed. They would never know for sure. But right now, it didn't matter. The chaos was their salvation. They reached the spaceport as the city erupted into protests behind them. Docking Bay 17. A small battered cargo ship waited there, engines already hot. A woman stood at the ramp, arms crossed. She looked tough and weathered, with scars crossing her face. "You're late. I was about to leave." "Ji-won?" Hana asked. "That's me. You got my payment?" Hana handed over a credit chip loaded with enough money to buy a new ship. Ji-won's eyes widened when she checked the amount. Then she grinned. "Okay, yeah, we're good. Get aboard. We're leaving before this whole place explodes." As Taemin moved toward the ship, Hana grabbed his arm. "Wait." He turned back to her. She looked like she wanted to say 1,000 things but couldn't find the words. Finally, she just pulled him into a fierce embrace. "Be safe," she whispered. "Save your people, and maybe someday." "Someday," he agreed quietly. Then he was running up the ramp and the ship was lifting off, and Hana was getting smaller below. The last thing he saw before they jumped to hyperspace was the capital city burning with riots and revolution, all because one princess had decided to care about the truth. And in his hand, he clutched the data device that could save millions of human lives. He had succeeded, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like goodbye. The ship never made it to hyperspace. Military interceptors caught them just outside the planet's atmosphere. Taemin watched helplessly through the viewport as warships surrounded Ji-won's cargo vessel. There was no escape. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and trapped. "Well, this is not good," Ji-won muttered, her hands frozen over the controls. "Any brilliant ideas?" Before anyone could answer, a communication channel opened. General Dae-hyun's face appeared on the screen, cold and furious. "Cut your engines immediately and prepare to be boarded," he commanded. "Princess Hana, I know you're on that ship. Don't make this worse than it already is." Hana stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. "General, let the ship go. This isn't their fight. Arrest me if you must, but let them leave." "You're in no position to negotiate," Dae-hyun replied. "You've committed treason. You've exposed classified military operations. Half the capital is rioting because of you. And you expect mercy?" "I expect nothing," Hana said quietly. "But I don't regret what I did. Land the ship, now. That's an order." Ji-won looked at Hana, waiting for a decision. Minji gripped the edge of a console, her face pale. Taemin stood beside Hana, his hand finding hers. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. "Do it," Hana said finally. "Land at the spaceport. There's no point in getting everyone killed." The cargo ship descended slowly, surrounded by military escorts. Below, the spaceport had been evacuated and secured. Dozens of soldiers waited, weapons ready. General Dae-hyun stood at the center of them, his face grim. As they landed and the ramp lowered, Taemin handed the data device to Ji-won. Hide this. Somehow get it to the human territories. That information could save millions of lives. Ji-won nodded grimly and slipped the device into a hidden compartment in her coat. I'll find a way. Count on it. They walked down the ramp into a circle of weapons. Soldiers immediately seized Taemin, forcing him to his knees. Others moved to arrest Minji. But when a soldier reached for Hana, Daehyun held up his hand. Not the princess, not yet. He approached Hana slowly, his expression pained. Why? That's all I want to know. Why throw away everything for a human spy? Because it was the right thing to do, Hana said simply. You saw those invasion plans, Daehyun. You saw what they're planning. Mass murder of civilians. That's not war. That's genocide. That's military strategy, Daehyun countered. Sometimes hard choices must be made for the Empire's survival. The Empire's survival? Hana laughed bitterly. We're not fighting for survival. We're fighting for territory and resources. We started this war. We're the aggressors. And now we're planning to slaughter millions to finish it. That's enough! Daehyun's voice cracked like a whip. He gestured to his soldiers. Execute the human! Now! 3 soldiers raised their weapons, aiming at Taemin's head. He closed his eyes, thinking of his sister Yoonji, hoping she would survive what was coming, hoping the data would reach human command in time. Wait! Hana's voice rang out desperately. The soldiers paused, looking uncertain. Hana stepped forward, placing herself between the weapons and Taemin. Princess, move aside, Daehyun ordered. No. This man is an enemy spy. He infiltrated our palace, stole classified information, and endangered the Empire. He must be executed. Then you'll have to execute me first, Hana said, her voice shaking but firm. Because I won't move. I won't let you kill him. Hana, don't be foolish. Please, Hana interrupted, her eyes locked on Daehyun's. Please. I can't harm him. I won't watch him die. If you have to kill someone, kill me instead. The spaceport fell silent. Soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. Even Daehyun seemed frozen, shocked by her words. You would die for a human? He asked in disbelief. I would die for what's right, Hana replied. Taemin isn't a monster. He's not evil. He's a soldier trying to protect his people just like you. The only difference is his people are the ones being hunted to extinction. They're the enemy. No! Hana's voice rose with passion. They're people, living, feeling people with families and dreams and the right to exist. Everything we've been told about them is a lie, and you know it. Daehyun's hand tightened on his weapon. Step aside, princess. This is your final warning. I won't. Behind them, Taemin tried to stand, tried to push Hana away from danger, but the soldiers held him down. Hana, don't do this. Your death won't change anything. Maybe not, she said, not taking her eyes off Daehyun. But I won't betray what I believe. Not anymore. For a long, terrible moment, no one moved. The tension was suffocating. Daehyun's finger rested on the trigger. Hana stood her ground, protecting Taemin with her body. Then slowly, Daehyun lowered his weapon. Stand down, he told his soldiers quietly. Sir? One of them questioned. I said stand down! His voice cracked with emotion. No one fires. That's an order. The soldiers obeyed, though they looked confused. Daehyun walked closer to Hana, his face showing a conflict of emotions. Anger, pain, respect, betrayal, all mixed together. I've known you since you were 5 years old, he said quietly. I taught you strategy games. I protected you from threats. I watched you grow into a woman of intelligence and compassion. And now, I have to watch you throw it all away. I'm not throwing anything away, Hana replied gently. I'm finally standing for something that matters. Your father will have you both executed, you know that. I know. He's already on his way here. Once he arrives, this decision will be out of my hands. Then we don't have much time. Hana reached out and took Dae-hyun's hand. Please, General, you're a good man, a man of honor. Look into your heart and tell me, is what we're doing to the humans truly just? Is genocide ever acceptable? Dae-hyun pulled his hand away, but his expression was troubled. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple, Hana insisted. Right and wrong. That's all it is. And you know which side of that line this war falls on. Before Dae-hyun could respond, a royal transport descended from the sky, flanked by the Emperor's personal guard. Emperor Hyunwoo had arrived, and he did not look pleased. The transport landed with a heavy thud. The ramp lowered, and Emperor Hyunwoo strode out, his ceremonial robes flowing behind him. His face was a mask of cold fury. Behind him came dozens of elite guards and several members of the Imperial Council. "Father," Hana started. "Silence!" The Emperor's voice boomed across the spaceport. "You have no right to speak. You've committed the highest treason. You've betrayed your family, your people, your entire species." He gestured sharply at Taemin. "And for what? For a human? One of the creatures we've been fighting for 15 years? Have you lost your mind?" "I've found it," Hana said quietly. "For the first time in my life. I know who I am and what I stand for." Hyunwoo's face turned an alarming shade of purple. "General Dae-hyun, why is that human still breathing? I gave orders for immediate execution." Dae-hyun stood at attention, but his voice was careful. "The princess intervened, Your Majesty. I don't care what she did. Kill the human. Now. Your Majesty, perhaps we should discuss—" "That's an order, General." Dae-hyun's face went blank, the expression of a soldier following commands he didn't agree with. He raised his weapon again, pointing it at Taemin. Hana moved once more between them. "No, I told you. You'll have to kill me first. Then I will." Emperor Hyunwoo drew his own ceremonial weapon, a beautiful but deadly energy pistol. He aimed it directly at his daughter's heart. "Last chance, Hana. Move aside or die with him." The crowd of soldiers gasped. Even the Imperial Council members looked shocked. A father threatening to execute his own child was unthinkable, even for treason. But Hyunwoo's hand was steady. "I mean it. I will not let sentiment cloud my judgment. You are a traitor, and traitors die. Move, now." Hana met her father's eyes. She saw no mercy there, no paternal love, just cold determination. This was not her father right now. This was the Emperor, and the Empire's will was absolute. "Then I suppose we die?" Hana said softly. She reached behind her and found Taemin's hand, squeezing it tight. "I'm sorry it ends like this." "Don't be," Taemin whispered back. "You gave me hope. That's more than I ever expected." Emperor Hyunwoo's finger tightened on the trigger, and then, from the city beyond the spaceport, came the sound of thousands of voices chanting in unison. The protests that had started earlier were growing, spreading. People were marching toward the spaceport demanding answers, demanding truth. The leaked invasion plans had changed everything. The Valerian people, who had always trusted their government, were learning that their leaders had lied to them. They were learning about planned massacres, about targeting children, about genocide in their name. And they were angry. "Your Majesty," one of the council members spoke urgently. "The situation in the city is deteriorating. We need to address the public's concerns immediately." "The only thing that needs addressing is this traitor," Hyunwoo snarled. But the chanting grew louder. The crowd was approaching. Thousands of civilians demanding change, demanding justice, demanding that their princess be heard. General Dae-hyun lowered his weapon again. "Your Majesty, perhaps killing Princess Hana in front of the populace would be unwise." Hyunwoo looked around at the growing chaos, at the approaching masses. at his own guards who were looking uncertain. His empire was fracturing before his eyes, and at the center of it all stood his daughter, defiant and unafraid, still protecting a human with her body. The Emperor lowered his weapon slowly, his face twisted with rage and something that might have been pain. "This isn't over," he said coldly. "Take them both to the palace prison. Hold them there until I decide their fate." It wasn't freedom, but it was time. And sometimes, time was all you needed for revolution to take root. The palace prison was cold and dark. Hana sat in her cell, separated from Taemin by thick walls and energy barriers. She couldn't see him, couldn't touch him, couldn't even hear his voice. The isolation was meant to break her spirit, to make her regret her choices. It didn't work. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Taemin's face. She remembered their conversations, his laughter, the way he looked at her like she mattered. She remembered standing between him and death, knowing she would do it again in a heartbeat. 3 days passed in silence. Guards brought food but refused to speak. No one came to interrogate her. No one told her what was happening in the world outside. The silence was its own form of torture. On the 4th day, Minji was brought to her cell. Her friend looked exhausted and frightened but unharmed. They embraced through the energy barrier, unable to touch but grateful just to see each other. "What's happening out there?" Hana asked urgently. "Chaos," Minji replied. "The leaked invasion plan spread to every planet in the Empire. Protests everywhere. Some military units are refusing orders. The council is divided. Your father has declared martial law, but it's not working. People want answers." "And Taemin? Is he alive?" "For now. But the Emperor has scheduled a public execution for both of you. 3 days from now in the Central Plaza." Minji's voice broke. "Hana, there's nothing I can do to stop it." "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize. You've done more than I ever had the right to ask." Hana pressed her hand against the barrier where Minji's hand mirrored hers. "At least we tried. At least people know the truth now." "Is that enough? If you die, was it worth it?" Hana thought about that. Was truth worth dying for? Was saving millions of humans she would never meet worth sacrificing everything? "Yes," she said finally. "Yes, it was worth it." After Minji left, Hana was alone again with her thoughts. She thought about her life, the princess who had read forbidden books and dreamed of different worlds. She had always known she was meant for something more than royal ceremonies and arranged marriages. She just never imagined it would end like this. In another cell, Taemin sat in darkness, replaying everything that had happened. He had completed his mission. The data was out. Human colonies would receive warning about the invasion. Lives would be saved. But Hana would die because of him. A woman who had shown him kindness when she should have shown him cruelty. Who had risked everything for a stranger from an enemy species. Who had stood between him and death multiple times. He loved her. He had finally admitted that to himself in the darkness. He loved her smile, her courage, her gentle heart that refused to accept hatred as normal. He loved her even though they came from different worlds, different species, different lives. And in 3 days, they would both die. At least they would die together. On the evening before the execution, General Dae-hyun came to Hana's cell. He looked older, burdened by guilt and duty. He deactivated the energy barrier and stepped inside. "I came to say goodbye," he said quietly, "and to apologize." "You have nothing to apologize for," Hana replied. "You followed your conscience as far as you could. I don't blame you. I should have done more. Should have stood with you." Dae-hyun sat on the bench beside her. "I've been a soldier my whole life. Following orders was easier than questioning them. But you made me question. You made me see what we've become. Then do something about it, Hana urged. You're one of the most powerful men in the Empire. You could stop the invasion. You could make peace. Your father will never allow it. The hardliners control the council now. They want your execution to be a warning to anyone else who might question the war. Daehyun's voice was bitter. I'm sorry, Hana. I failed you. No, she said gently. You gave us time. You didn't shoot when ordered. That took courage. They sat in silence for a while. Then Daehyun asked, Do you really love him, the human? Yes, Hana admitted. I know it's impossible. I know it makes no sense. But yes, I love him. Then at least you'll die knowing what love feels like. Many people never get that chance. Daehyun stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I think you were braver than any soldier I've known. You fought for what was right, even when everyone said you were wrong. That's true courage. After he left, Hana felt strangely at peace. She had made her choice. She regretted nothing. The night before the execution, something unexpected happened. Hana was woken by the sound of energy barriers deactivating. Her cell door opened. In the corridor stood Minji, wearing a guard's uniform, her hands shaking. Quickly, Minji whispered, We don't have much time. What are you doing? Hana asked in shock. What you taught me, the right thing. Minji helped her up. Jiwon the smuggler managed to get the data to human forces. They've shared it with the Valerian public. Everything. The full details of planned civilian massacres. Your father's personal orders. All of it. The Empire is in complete chaos. Some colonies are declaring independence. Military units are defecting. It's falling apart. They hurried through dark corridors. Minji had somehow disabled security in this section. Where's Taemin? Hana demanded. Already free. Jiwon's ship is waiting at a hidden landing pad. She's taking you both off planet. What about you? Someone has to stay and help rebuild, Minji said with a sad smile. Someone has to make sure your sacrifice meant something. I'm not leaving without you. Yes, you are. Minji stopped and hugged her friend tightly. You gave me courage, Hana. Now let me return the favor. Go, live, be happy with him. Show the universe that peace is possible. They reached a service exit where Jiwon waited with Taemin. He looked weak, but alive. When he saw Hana, relief flooded his face. They rushed to each other, embracing desperately. I thought I'd never see you again, Taemin whispered against her hair. I'm here. We're both here. Touching reunion. But we need to move, Jiwon urged. My ship's ready, but the window's closing fast. Minji pushed them toward the exit. Go! Now! As they ran, alarms began blaring. Their escape had been discovered. But they kept running through gardens and service tunnels until they reached the hidden landing pad where Jiwon's ship waited. General Daehyun stood there, weapon drawn. For a terrible moment, everyone froze. Then Daehyun lowered his weapon. I wondered when you'd make your escape attempt. Took you long enough. You knew? Hana asked in shock. I'm head of security. I know everything. He stepped aside, gesturing toward the ship. I may not have the courage to defy the Emperor openly, but I can look the other way when the right people escape. Consider it my small act of rebellion. General, they'll punish you for this, Hana said. Probably, but I'll finally be able to sleep at night. He actually smiled slightly. Go, both of you. And Princess? Try to build the peace we couldn't. They boarded the ship. As it lifted off, Hana looked back at the palace one last time. She was leaving everything, her title, her home, her people, her entire life. But she was doing it with Taemin, and somehow that made it all worthwhile. Where to? Jiwon asked from the pilot's seat. Hana and Taemin looked at each other. They were fugitives now, wanted by the Valerian Empire, untrusted by the human colonies. They had no home, no safety, no guarantee of anything. Somewhere between, Taman said finally. Somewhere we can work for peace from both sides. As they jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Valerian capital behind, Hana felt fear and hope mixed together. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in her life, she was truly free to choose her own path. And she chose to stand with the humans she loved, fighting for a future where humans and Valerians could live together in peace. Back on the planet, Emperor Hyunwoo stared at reports of his daughter's escape. His empire was crumbling. Colonies were in open revolt. The military was fracturing. The council was turning against him, and it had all started with one princess who refused to let an enemy spy die. "Find them," he commanded General Daehyun coldly. "Find them both and bring them back. I don't care what it takes." But Daehyun looked at the reports, the defections, the protests, the demands for peace, and for the first time in his career, he questioned whether he would follow that order. The revolution had begun, and there was no telling where it would end. 6 months had passed since Hana and Taman's escape. They had found refuge on a neutral trading station called Haven's Edge, a place where humans and Valerians and dozens of other species mixed freely. Here, they worked in secret, coordinating with resistance groups on both sides of the war. The data Taman had stolen changed everything. Human colonies prepared defenses and evacuated civilians from target zones. The invasion, when it finally came, met fierce resistance. Valerian losses were heavy, but more importantly, the war lost its momentum. In Valerian space, the protests grew into something bigger. Colonies declared independence. Military units refused to fight. The council split into factions, some wanting to crush the rebellion, others calling for peace talks, and everywhere people whispered about Princess Hana, who had defied her father for a human. Some called her a traitor, but many called her a hero. One day, as Hana and Taman worked on communication channels to human territories, Jiwon burst into their small quarters. "You two need to see this, now." She activated a holographic display showing a live broadcast from Valar Prime. General Daehyun stood before the Imperial Palace, surrounded by soldiers. But these soldiers wore red armbands, the symbol of the reform movement. "Citizens of the Valerian Empire," Daehyun's voice was firm and clear. "I stand before you today not as general of the Imperial forces, but as a soldier who swore to protect our people. For too long we have fought a war based on lies, a war that has cost countless lives on both sides." The crowd gathered before him listened in silence. 6 months ago, Princess Hana risked everything to expose the truth about our invasion plans. She was branded a traitor for showing compassion, for refusing to accept genocide in our name. But she was not the traitor. We were. Every soldier who followed unjust orders, every citizen who believed the propaganda, every member of the council who knew the truth and stayed silent. Daehyun's image filled the screen. "Today, I publicly defy Emperor Hyunwoo's authority. I call for his immediate removal from power. I call for peace negotiations with the human colonies. And I call for Princess Hana's return to lead us toward a better future." The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Others shouted in anger. But the message was clear. The empire was fracturing beyond repair. Hana watched in shock. He actually did it. Daehyun finally chose a side. "Your side," Taman said quietly. "What you started is becoming a revolution." Over the next weeks, the situation escalated rapidly. Loyalist forces and reform forces clashed in several systems. The war with humanity ground to a halt as the Valerian military turned on itself. It was brutal and chaotic, but slowly the reformers gained ground. Emperor Hyunwoo barricaded himself in the palace with his most loyal guards. He refused all calls for negotiation, all demands to surrender. He would rather see the empire burn than admit he was wrong. Then came the day that changed everything. A massive joint fleet approached Valar Prime, reformist Valerian ships and human vessels flying together under a white flag of truce. Leading the delegation was General Daehyun, along with representatives from the human colonies, and with them, broadcasted on every channel across the Empire, were Hana and Taemin. "Father," Hana's message played across the planet, "this war is over, not because one side won, but because both sides are tired of fighting. Your people are demanding peace. The human colonies are offering genuine negotiation. Please, let me come home. Let me help heal the wounds we've caused." Emperor Hyunwoo watched the broadcast from his throne room, his face twisted with rage and something that might have been grief. His daughter, his heir, the child he had raised to rule the empire, she was returning as an enemy. Or was she? He looked at the screens showing the situation across his empire. Colonies in open rebellion, citizens demanding change, his own military divided and fighting itself. The grand vision he had built was crumbling. And at the center of it all was Hana, who had started this with a simple act of compassion, refusing to let a wounded enemy die. The palace doors were sealed, but that didn't stop what happened next. From inside, a group of imperial guards, soldiers who had protected the royal family for generations, did the unthinkable. They opened the gates. "We serve the people," their commander announced, "not a tyrant." The reformist forces entered the palace without bloodshed. They found Emperor Hyunwoo sitting on his throne, aged and defeated. He didn't resist when they took him into custody. "I want to see my daughter," he said quietly. It was the first time in months anyone had heard him speak without anger. They brought him to the throne room where Hana waited. Father and daughter faced each other across the space where she had once played as a child, where he had taught her the responsibilities of leadership. "You've destroyed everything I built," Hyunwoo said, his voice hollow. "I've saved what was worth saving," Hana replied. "Father, you taught me to be strong, to stand for what I believed. I'm doing exactly that." "By betraying your own species? By refusing to commit genocide in their name?" Hana stepped closer. "I still love you. You're my father and nothing changes that. But you were wrong, and I couldn't let the killing continue." Hyunwoo looked at his daughter, so much stronger than he had ever imagined she could be. She had defied an empire and won, not through violence, but through conscience. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we make peace," Hana said. "Real peace. Between humans and Valerians, between all the factions of our divided empire. It won't be easy, but it's necessary. And me? You'll face trial for war crimes. I can't protect you from that." Hana's voice was sad but firm. "But I'll make sure you're treated fairly. That's more than you offered Taemin." Hyunwoo's eyes shifted to the human standing beside his daughter, the spy who had started all this, the man his daughter loved. He wanted to hate him, but looking at them together, how they stood close, how they looked at each other, he saw something he had never expected. They truly cared for each other. "You really love him?" Hyunwoo said quietly. "Yes." "Even knowing what it cost you? Your title? Your home? Everything?" "I didn't lose anything that mattered," Hana said, taking Taemin's hand. "I found what mattered." The former emperor was silent for a long time. Then, quietly, "I don't understand. But perhaps that's my failure, not yours." The trials that followed were long and difficult. Emperor Hyunwoo was found guilty of war crimes and sentenced to life imprisonment, stripped of all titles and authority. Many of his closest advisors faced similar fates. It was justice, but it was also painful to watch an empire dismantle its own leadership. Meanwhile, peace negotiations began in earnest. Hana represented the reformed Valerian government. Taemin helped represent human interests, though he was still viewed with suspicion by many on both sides. The talks were difficult, filled with centuries of prejudice and 15 years of fresh grief, but slowly, Painfully, progress was made. Territory disputes were negotiated. War reparations discussed. Most importantly, cultural exchange programs began. Humans and Valerians started meeting, talking, learning about each other as people rather than enemies. Hana proved to be a natural diplomat. She spoke with compassion but also firmness, never forgetting what the war had cost on both sides. General Daehyun supported her, commanding reformist forces that maintained order during the transition. A year after her return to Valar Prime, Hana stood before the Grand Council as they voted to establish a new government, one that included human representatives, that wrote peace into its founding laws, that promised never again to wage war for conquest. The vote was close, but it passed. The Valerian Empire was dead. In its place stood the Valerian Federation, committed to cooperation rather than domination. That evening, Hana and Taemin stood on the palace balcony, the same one where they had once hidden and talked in secret. The city below sparkled with celebration. People danced in the streets, Valerians and humans together. "Do you ever regret it?" Taemin asked. "Everything you gave up?" Hana leaned against him, his warmth comforting in the cool night air. "Not for a moment. You?" "Never." He kissed the top of her head gently. "Though I still can't believe we survived all this." "We're human," Hana said with a smile. "Well, I'm not technically, but I've learned from the best. Humans never give up, even when they should." "Is that what you think we are? Stubborn?" "Gloriously, magnificently stubborn," Hana laughed. "It's one of the things I love most about your species. You see the impossible and say, 'Watch me.'" Below them, a mixed group of young people, human and Valerian, sang together, their voices blending in harmony. Children who had grown up with war were learning to live with peace. "It's not perfect," Taemin observed. "There's still tension, still prejudice, still people on both sides who hate this." "Nothing worthwhile is ever perfect," Hana replied, "but it's better. And tomorrow it will be a little better still, and the day after that, better again. That's all we can do, make each day better than the last." Minji found them there later, bringing news that Daehyun wanted to discuss security for the upcoming cultural festival. As Hana's chief advisor now, Minji was always busy, but she looked happier than she had in years. "You should go," Taemin said. "I'll wait here." "You're not coming?" Hana asked. "It's Valerian government business. I'm still officially just a consultant." "You're more than that." Hana took both his hands in hers. "You're my partner, in everything." They had talked about the future many times, about whether they would marry by human or Valerian custom, or create something new, about whether they would stay in politics or eventually retire to a quiet life somewhere, about the challenges of a relationship between different species when so much was still unknown. But those were questions for another day. Tonight was for celebrating how far they had come. Before Hana left for the meeting, she looked back at Taemin one more time. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too," he replied. Later that night, alone in her quarters, Hana recorded a message to be archived in the historical records. She wanted future generations to understand what had happened and why. "My name is Hana," she spoke into the recorder. "I was once a princess of the Valerian Empire. I defied my father and my people to protect a wounded human spy. That choice started a revolution that changed everything. People ask me if I regret it, if I would make the same choice again, knowing what it cost. The answer is yes, without hesitation, because that choice taught me something important. Compassion is never wrong. Standing against injustice is never wrong. And refusing to harm another being simply because they're different is never wrong. The war between our species lasted 15 years and cost millions of lives. It should never have happened. But now it's over, and we're building something better together. If you're listening to this from the future, I hope you're living in a world where humans and Valerians are simply neighbors, friends, partners. I hope the war is ancient history that people struggle to understand. I hope you look back at our conflicts and wonder how we ever saw each other as enemies. That's the future Taman and I fought for. That's the future worth any sacrifice. She ended the recording and went to bed, sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. Outside, the celebration continued. In the streets, in the houses, across the planet, and throughout the reformed territories, people danced and laughed and dared to hope. A princess had defied her empire for one wounded human, and in doing so, she had saved millions of lives and changed the course of history. Sometimes, all it takes is one person brave enough to say, "I can't harm him," when everyone expects them to pull the trigger. Sometimes, that's enough to change the universe.